Hi, everybody. Happy Friday. We're here today to talk about how to resolve conflict in your workplace. My name is Mary Gladstone-Highland, and I'm here with Christina Wickert. We are both nonprofit consultants with Spark Group Consulting, where we do we provide varied services for nonprofit clients across the Metro Detroit area and across the country. And we're really excited about that work and excited to talk about this topic with you today. So we've got some easy tips and tricks for resolving workplace conflict. So the first thing we want to talk about is, should we run from the conflict or face it head on? So what do we think about that, Christina?
Well, I think absolutely we do want to face a conflict, and I know that can be hard for a lot of people. Sometimes, we want to, or we hope that, maybe this problem or this conflict isn't, it's not a big deal, or if, I just kind of keep my head down and keep going, the conflict is magically sort of going to disappear on its own, and we can keep on working and continuing that way. And unfortunately, that really doesn't tend to work out.
Yeah, and as we know, high conflict amongst team leads to turnover. Turnover is very expensive for organizations. It leads to lower productivity. Staff members are less likely to be able to focus on their work if they're embroiled in conflict. And so trying to avoid the conflict or run away from the conflict really just creates a larger conflict for you and larger expenses for your organization that you then have to address.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And the nice thing is that once, you've jumped in and you've resolved to address the conflict and really work through it and do that in an effective, proactive way, conflict can actually lead to a lot of benefits for your organization or your workplace, a lot of growth, because once you really kind of get in the trenches and start working through what you need to do to resolve the conflict, you might be surprised what you can learn about your team, your workplace, how people can work together effectively. So conflict can absolutely be a positive thing and lead to growth if it's handled proactively.
Yeah, and I like that phrase, proactively and effectively, because there's healthy ways to handle conflict and then there's unhealthy ways. And the more that we model those healthy ways, the more our teams will model those healthy ways of handling conflict as well. And so, yeah, it can really lead to some great growth. So we have a conflict. Now what do we do?
Yeah, so I mean, to really be effective, because we keep using that word, to one of the most important things to do in the beginning is to figure out what that conflict is. And that might seem really obvious, but generally speaking, we all have different perspectives. And when two people or two parties to a conflict have a different perspective on the conflict, you're not going to get anywhere until you've figured out exactly what that conflict is, really defined it. I like to use the example, or to think about, the conflict, the problem, the elephant in the room, right? There's an elephant in the room. People don't want to talk about it. They want to avoid the elephant in the room. But when you break it down and say, okay, what's the problem here? Maybe I think that the problem is there's an elephant in the room. What's this animal doing here? And you might think the problem is the room is too small. So we're generally speaking of the same conflict, but it's not, we haven't really defined what's going on. So when we start trying to fix the problem, you and I are going to be, working on two very different things.
Yeah, and then similarly, we talk about understanding the root causes. So you want to address what let the elephant into the room in the first place, or why is our room too small, in order to figure out how to go forward with that conflict. It might be an issue where you can negotiate your conflict and figure out a win-win situation for everybody. It might be an issue where there's something happening in the workplace that needs to stop. But so understanding those root causes will help you figure out how to resolve those causes going forward. And then our last tip here is to bring everybody to the table. What do we mean by that?
Right. Well, again, getting as many voices, getting as many perspectives, getting, as all of the, we use the term stakeholders, all of the different stakeholders who could be affected by the conflict while it's happening, who could be affected by whatever, solution or resolution the team ends up bringing forward. Whoever is going to play a role in that should be there at the table. Their voices should be heard. They should be part of working through the conflict towards the resolution.
Yeah, because if you have half the stakeholders there, then you're not going to be able to address that conflict effectively if people's voices aren't heard.
Right. Or whoever is there at the table the first time might think they have an excellent solution, excellent resolution to the conflict, and then if some people were missing, maybe they're not going to be happy or pleased or satisfied with the result, and then you have to start all over again.
Yep. So thank you for spending some time with us today to think through conflicts. I know that was a very high level, short discussion on how to handle conflict in your organization. And so if you're interested in having a deeper conversation about what's happening within your organization and a conflict that you're in the midst of, we're here to help you. You can log on to sparkgroupconsulting.com and sign up for a free 30-minute consultation, and we'd be happy to talk you through that and see what services we might be able to provide to you to help you resolve your conflict if necessary. So thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you again soon.